In this video, I'm gonna go over exactly why your agency is stuck below 50K a month and what you can change to actually get there and scale faster. There are a lot of problems that I have ran into over the last couple of years when I tried to break that number, and I broke it 2 times so far. And in this video, I'm gonna go through exactly what I've learned, my takeaways, the problems that I had to face, and how I solved them so you can do the exact same thing. You get all the takeaways for completely free within about 20 minutes. I would recommend you watch through the entire thing, and then I'll see you at the end. So now we're gonna cover why your agency is stuck below 50K a month and how you can actually break through that barrier. In the first place, why should you even listen to anything I have to say? I have attached 2 different screenshots right here of 2 different companies that I've been able to build up, 2 different agencies to be more specific. One of them you can see 33,500 euros within 1 month in the October of 2024. This is just Stripe, none of the other payment processes like Wise, Crypto, etc., etc. And then you can see another Stripe screenshot, which was back then, I think in 2023, which was the month of July. And you can see 40,000 pounds. My business partner back then was in the UK, which is why it's pounds, which is about 50,000 euros within 1 month. So I've been able to break through that barrier myself multiple times, and I've done it time and time and time again with clients. And so in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how you can do the exact same thing and why you're very likely stuck below that barrier. What I want to go over, and by the end of this video, I want you to know what the most common pitfalls are for agencies under 50,000 a month, how you can avoid these pitfalls, what the biggest levers are that you can pull, and also how you can maximize your probability of success to the maximum. Now, what are the most common pitfalls for agencies under 50K a month? The first one is not being able to price their offers properly. I see this time and time again with people that try to start out in the first place, or even already have an agency, have a couple of clients and are doing solid. They're usually very scared to raise price because they're scared of what's going to happen to their closing rates and the whole sales process in and of itself. But the problem is that you end up being stuck in this hamster wheel of 10 to 20K a month, where you're stuck with low-level clients that don't really pay you much, that also don't really value as much as you would want them to value you, but at the same time, you can't really scale it because you're capped with the time that you can invest into the business, and you can't hire team members because there's not enough profits in the business to actually scale. And this is one of the hardest points that you have to break through when you want to get past 50K, because this stage in between 10 to 20K, where although you're making revenue, your clients don't bring in enough per client, and in addition to that, there's not enough profits in the business for you to be able to hire people. That's usually a point where a lot of people get stuck. And the reason for that is that they are not willing and able to take in a short-term loss, which is sign less clients and make less money, for the long-term gain of working with the right people, because you can actually allocate your time towards signing these people as well. And so a lot of people end up being stuck in this area of 10 to 20K simply because they aren't able to take the risk, work with better clients, and say no to a lot more low-level clients in the first place. So that's one. Just don't do it. It's really stupid. It's going to hold you back for a long time. And all the risk you see in saying no to the clients that you usually accept, it doesn't really make sense. It's just imaginary risk. And even if your revenue dips for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, it is well worth it long term. The next one is that usually people under 50K a month are struggling to retain and scale through organic traffic. This one is very, very important. Usually you'll get to 10K a month just through working hard, being consistent, and learning how to sell. But getting from 10 to 50 requires you to have some leverage involved in your business. And if you're running an online service-based business / agency, usually you'll get that leverage from either a team or content. But the thing is, great team members are hard to hire at that stage because you can't really offer as much incentive for them to actually join your team in the first place. And great people and A players will only join your team when they see a huge vision in the company. The next one is that usually for agencies below 50,000 a month, their ads are unprofitable even though experts were working on their campaigns. One thing you have to understand here is that usually it's never an ads problem, usually it's an offers problem, it's a branding problem, and it's everything around it. Because if you can make sure that your offer is done right, you have great case studies, and your whole branding in and of itself is actually aligned and works well, you won't really have problems getting ads profitable. And profitable ads with bigger companies as well, usually they aren't about having the most fancy technique of setting up your Meta Ads Manager in a certain way. Usually it's just that everything else in the business is already in line and already is working out. And then because of that, their ads are profitable. And so if your ads are unprofitable, you're losing money, or it's just not really working out for you even though you're spending money on it, well, usually that's a problem of the company, not really an ads problem. And if it is an ads problem, just fire the person you have, learn it yourself, because there is nothing wrong with you getting into the ads manager and actually understanding how the platform works yourself in the first place. That's that. The next one is that people usually struggle to hire the first 1 to 2 proper team members. And this is usually because people don't understand that hiring is kind of like recruiting. What I mean by that is that when you get on an interview, it's like a closing call, because at the end of the day, if it is an A player and a good person sitting in front of you that's applying to work at your company, you will have to close them on why it's a great opportunity and why it makes sense to join your company. Because money they can make anywhere, but they have to see the vision and long-term want to be with you and your company. So it's a closing call at the end of the day, just without you answering their questions. That's very important. If you want to hire the first 1 to 2 proper team members, especially for your sales team, you have to be able to close people on the vision that the company has. The next one, the next pitfall that agencies usually run into when they're stuck below 50K a month, is that they have no leverage in their acquisition. With your acquisition, in the beginning, you just want to make money. You just want to get the ball rolling, get clients in, so you can kind of build everything up. But the problem is that usually you'll end up in this hamster wheel where your sales cycles are a couple of weeks or even a couple of months up until people close. And, long sales cycles damage your business a lot. At the end of the day, you have to understand one thing. The whole point of the business is to make sure your clients get good results. But you can only provide good results for your clients if there's enough profits in the business for you to be able to reinvest those profits in getting them good results. And so it's in your client's best interest to make sure that more people sign quicker at higher price points. And a huge problem a lot of agencies, usually stuck in between this 5K to 20K a month range, run into, it's usually the sales cycles. And you get around that through having a bit of leverage in your acquisition. Now, how can you do that? You can do that through, for example, introducing long-form content like webinars or VSLs. Framing content and content assets that educate people on who you are, who your company is, or what it stands for, what the results are, and what the solution is in the first place, very intensively. And if you can do that and you can educate people even before jumping on calls, and you can make sure that they are well framed before they get on the sales calls, you'll have more conversions, very important, in less time, and at the same time, obviously, they will also pay more money up front. But the main thing you have to achieve here is that sales cycles are shortened. And you do that through having long-form content like webinars, VSLs, etc. in place to educate people and frame people. Now, one thing I want to dive into here quickly, which is very important, I'm going through a lot of things here, and all of these things, if implemented correctly, will be making you a lot of money and will help you scale your agency past 50K. The problem with this is that most people wouldn't even implement what I'm talking about here in the first place, okay? So the information sometimes isn't the issue. Sometimes it's just taking action on what actually needs to be done. And a lot of people struggle to do that. I want you to keep in mind that business is a competition. It's one-on-one on one-on-one, or group versus group. You're playing against other people, which means that every single micro detail that you have in your life and in your business needs to be optimized to the T, because at the end of the day, you're trying to beat other people. And if you're already making money, say you're making 10 to 20K a month, you'll usually be making a lot more money than most people in your circle already. And so you'll feel good about that. But the problem with that is that it's like you're competing against high school basketball players when you're in college basketball. You can't compare the two because it's different skill sets, different skill levels, and you shouldn't feel good about yourself for beating someone that's 5 years younger than you and like half your size. And so it's the same in business. When you get to 10 to 20K, usually you tend to look at a couple of people around you and you think that you're doing a lot better than them, and you can kind of relax, sit back and relax. But the problem is, say you get into the top 15%, top 10%, top 5% of earners in your country. You are not competing with the 80%, the 85%, the 90%, the 95%. You are competing with the 5%, the 10%, with people at your level. And these people usually are smarter than you, harder working than you, have been doing it for longer, have more proof, and they have a lot of leverage over you. And so the only way in which you can actually take over the marketplace and get to big numbers is by beating them. And you beat them by optimizing every single thing you're doing. What does that mean? When you look at a video like this and you get a lot of value from it, you need to implement it immediately and optimize every part of your business with intensity and efficiency. Just wanted to clear that up very quickly. Another very common pitfall that agencies under 50K a month fall into is that they are not filling the gaps and would rather yap about 50 different things without any congruency in their funnel. And I have fallen prey to this myself as well. And what I mean by that is that most agencies tend to have all of these different solutions and all of these different problems that they want to solve for their clients. And in the first place, they're talking about sales, and then they're talking about ads, and then they're talking about time management, and they're going into all of these different directions. But at the end of the day, that's not how you scale. And the reason for that is because people get confused in your funnel. If someone doesn't know exactly what it is that you provide, what your solution is, and what problem it solves, how do you expect them to opt in, get on a sales call, and close? When there's confusion, people take no action. Their line of action, the step-by-step process that they have to go through in order to become a client, has to be so crystal clear that it's very, very easy for them to go through that funnel. And you only achieve that when you have proper congruency in the funnel. When you're talking about one problem, one solution for one specific ideal customer. And when you're doing that consistently, people understand what you and your company and your solution and everything around it is about. And then the right people will opt in. And so congruency is very important. Now, these are all the most common pitfalls for agency under 50,000 a month. How can you now avoid these pitfalls? First of all, price in accordance to your actual value. Go for the gasp when dropping the price, and always make it a value-based game instead of a pricing-based game. This is very important. As you know, in sales, it's a lot about your own beliefs, because your own beliefs subconsciously shape the way the call goes and the direction that it heads into. What that means is that if you believe that it's a lot about price and people make decisions based on price, you will get people to make decisions based on price. And if you have a high ticket product, that's the worst thing you can do, because no one is going to buy. No one buys something for 8,000 when they're focused on the price rather than the value. Same thing with 5,000, same thing with 3,000, same thing with 50,000. And so you need to get people to think about the value, but you can only do that if you yourself think about the value in the first place. So teach yourself to think like that and think about the value rather than the price. That's one. And then make sure that your price always gets gasps. What does that mean? That means when people hop on calls with you and you run them through everything, they see the value and they're bought in. And when you drop the price, they're like, damn, that's actually something different. When people hop on calls with me, and I can obviously state this, currently my offerings are 18,000, 10,000, something around that range, dependent on the client, dependent on the agreement. And with agency clients, it's something different as well. It's on a higher level than that because it's revenue shares. But my point being is that when I tell people the price, they see it as, first of all, worth it. They see it as costly but not expensive, because it's worth the value, but it is a lot of money, right? And so if you can do that, then you know your price is right. You know your price is right when people do the gasp but see the value. And you have to make that happen by upping your price, having the value structured in accordance to the price. Obviously, it should be a lot more valuable than you're charging, right? If you're charging 20,000, make sure it's worth at least 50. And go for the gasp. Simple as that. Next one, have an actual differentiator in your offer. What I mean by this is that most people focus on tactics. As I spoke about as well, most people have unprofitable ads. The problem though is that getting your ads profitable, as we spoke about before, is not about you adjusting your ad strategy. It's usually all of these other different things in your business. And one of the biggest ones is a differentiator in your offer. Why would someone work with you rather than one of your 100, 1,000, 10,000 competitors? Truly ask yourself that and get very clear on what differentiator you can involve in the business to make things a lot more easy for you. Because I do have friends, and I have this with my own offer as well, where because the offer is so unique and it's something we creatively came up with ourselves when we present it to the market, it makes it a lot easier to get profitable ads, low cost per leads, good opt-ins, and high quality leads as well. It just gives you traction in the entire business. So having a good differentiator in your offer, something that's actually different about what you're doing, is big. I'm not going to talk about exact examples here, although I would love to, but it wouldn't make sense just because if I drop a couple of very unique offers, everybody's going to start copying them and then they're not differentiators anymore, you see? But find a differentiator in your offer. That's very important. Next one. Have a proper content and branding structure, know it works, get proof of concept, and double down. In the beginning, with content, you have to go wide. What that means is you want to go volume. You want to post as much as possible on as many platforms as possible and do it every single day. And as you continue to do that, you continue to learn what works, what you like, and what you're good at. And as soon as you find proof of concept, double down and do it every single day. So many people disregard the most important parts of their business because it's not something that they have to finish that day. The tasks on your to-do list that are the least likely to get done are usually the ones that are most important, right? Because not filming that webinar today won't hurt you today. It won't hurt you tomorrow. It probably won't hurt you in 1 or 2 weeks, but it will definitely hurt you in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and a couple of months down the line. So the things that have big impact and long-term impact, we usually tend to disregard because we're thinking about it as in we don't need to do it right now. But that's exactly what you should be focusing on. So don't forget about these things and work on them daily. Prioritize them. One thing that I can tell you there for reference on how I do that, usually I have about 2 to 4 hours of deep work every single day. I like to do that in the mornings. And in those 2 to 4 hours, I get done with the 3 to 5 most important tasks of that day. I get clear on which ones those are the night prior. And that's how I'm able to do this very effectively and actually get done with things that actually matter. Next one. Test way more, put major effort into the hook. This is about ads. This is general marketing advice and anyone should know this, but if you don't know this yet, the hook makes up 80% of the success of your copy, your video, and everything else you're doing. With Reels and short form, the first frame of your video is the thing that makes people decide subconsciously whether they continue watching or whether they just scroll past it. If you're looking at YouTube videos, the first 5 seconds of the video decide whether people stay on or they don't. As well as with copy. When people read the headline, they then decide, do I continue reading or do I not continue reading? So 80% of the success of everything you're doing in your marketing is dependent on the hook. Now that you know that, put a lot more effort into optimizing the hook. Test way more. If you're currently testing 10 different hooks, test 50. There's nothing holding you back from doing that. Most entrepreneurs think they're working hard, and I can also count myself into that spectrum at some points in time, but they're actually pretty fucking lazy. So just test more stuff and you'll find winners way faster. And business is all about speed. At the end of the day, if you're faster than everybody else and uphold the same or a better quality, you will make more money. Again, business is never a thing of, oh, I make money and everybody else is happy. If you make money, someone else loses that money. Right? Ideally not your client, they have to get the ROI, but your competitor, because they could have signed them. And so it is about efficiency. Next one, hiring. You attract who you are, never stop hiring, and hire from your network and connections. This obviously refers to agency owners under 50K a month struggling to hire the first 1 to 2 proper team members. You need to keep in mind that you attract who you are. If your standards aren't high enough, if you're not the type of person that people want to work for, then you're not going to get the best people. Second one, never stop hiring. A lot of people hire someone and then they stop the hiring process. Not a good idea. Why? If you never stop hiring, you always have someone that you can rely upon if the person you have on the team right now drops off or if you fire them. Which brings me to my next point. You have leverage over your team members. When you're constantly hiring, they know if they're not performing well, you can replace them like this, which means they will perform better. Never stop hiring. It's very important. Hire from your network and connections. It's just the best place to hire people from, in my opinion. It's something that I've done multiple times myself, and all the friends that I have that also run successful businesses, they all hire from people that they know. Because usually when you know someone for 1, 2, 3 years, when you know people for a long time, you know their fallacies, which makes you prepared for what could happen when they get on your team. And then the last point of what you can do to actually avoid the pitfalls that we went over is to test different angles of content assets that frame people very well, find proof of concept, go all in, and take over one cone of the market. Now, what do I mean by one cone of the market? Obviously, here we're talking about branding, we're talking about content. And what I mean with one cone of the market is, again, same thing. Most agencies tend to talk about all of these different things when in reality, none of these things actually matter. There is one problem that you should solve. There's one solution that you should provide and one person that you should provide it to. And so focus on taking over one part of the market with your branding first. And then when you're already big in that and you own it, then you can expand. Besides that, take over that one cone of the market first. So that so far was the most common pitfalls that agencies have under 50K a month, and also how you can actually avoid these pitfalls. Now, what are the biggest levers that you can pull to get to 50K a month? One, congruent system. We spoke about that before. Being able to say no to other opportunities. There's usually a very good logical reason to do it, and you still got to be able to say no. I have fallen prey to this multiple times myself. I have had different businesses throughout the last few years, and I have switched too much. I had a lot of learnings from switching and trying different things, working with different people. For sure, it helped me, and I'm grateful for everything I've learned. But if I wouldn't have switched that much, I would have probably had an easier time actually building up the business. Now, the problem is this. Usually, other opportunities, when they do present themselves, seem like there's a very good objective and logical reason as to why it's better. Because you might get introduced to that one guy who's really good at real estate and he can show you how to make money fixing and flipping properties, whatever that may be, and you feel like it's a really good opportunity because logically speaking, if you compare that opportunity to what you're doing right now, then that has this one thing that intrigues you, and there's always a reason for why that thing is better, but you have to still be able to say no, because if you just stick to one thing for long, you will make money. Have you ever seen someone running the same business for 30 years and not make a shit ton of money or be very good at what he's doing? If he's just in the right business model, which is one that's scalable, profitable, has future, etc., when you assess these metrics, if you're in a good business model and in a good vehicle, there is no reason for you to switch. Stick to it. Again, same thing. Don't look left and right. Stay in your lane. Stay focused on your vision and what you want to build. Don't look left and right. The next lever that you can pull is that once you have POC, so proof of concept, do it more. Use the momentum you have to scale. Don't be scared to pull bigger moves. I want to give you an example about this. So I was running webinars, and the first few webinars that I've run, I have had a 8 to 10x ROI. Meaning, first ever webinar, I spent 3,000 on ads and made 25,000 within 2 weeks. Second webinar, I spent 3,000 on ads, made 20,000. Within like 1 or 2 weeks as well. Pretty similar ROI. What's the problem? What's the issue? If I see that in the first webinar that I ever host, I get this ROI, I should have immediately spent 10,000 on the next webinar. I didn't use the momentum that I had properly. So what I'm doing now is I learned from my mistake. I'm trying to get proof of concept in the webinar acquisition. And as soon as I have that, I scale the ad spend massively, because that's how you grow fast. You use money as a tool to grow quicker and do more things. Money is a tool. Keep that in mind. Be proactive, become a better salesman, change your energy. Your energy is everything. Your energy is what attracts the team members. Your energy is what closes deals. Your energy is what literally creates your entire reality. Change your energy. Change the way you approach things. Become a better salesman. Learn sales. Like if you're stuck below 50K a month, usually lead generation is not that complicated. But if you can do just solid lead generation and you have a good sales process, you'll be able to get there. So learn sales, have someone helping you with that, and then also be proactive. This is super important. A lot of people, when they get to 10 to 20K a month at first, or even in the beginning, they think they have done it and they're where they want to be and everything's fine. But the problem is that as an entrepreneur, the only way in which you're actually going to grow a company and scale it and go big is if you're proactive in what you're doing. If you're reactive and only reacting to things happening to you and then trying to fix those problems and fix the bottlenecks, at best, you maybe stay where you are. Be proactive in what you're doing if you want to scale. That was the biggest levers you can pull. And now I want to dive into how you can maximize your probability of success. Don't stop, stick with it long term. We spoke about that before. Get around the right people. Don't be around people who lack drive, because you have to get inspired by the people that you are around every single day, and keep in mind that your environment will make the biggest difference here. For the video, I hope you found a lot of value in this. Make sure to take the takeaways and actually implement them and take action on everything that we went over. If you did find value in the video, make sure to give this a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section right now. And if you want to see more of these videos, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.